let's start with making SEO more human, because that's what really stood out when I was checking you out and saw your LinkedIn profile and you had the banners making SEO more human. And I was like, this is what we need. And I feel like it's both from two different sides. It's like making the SEO that you create sound human to the human that's going to read it and receive it. But also I was thinking making it easier for the human being to create SEO or to understand it and apply it.
It's both of those things. When I first started into SEO, it felt like this big mysterious thing that we needed to kind of trick Google into showing our content. And for a large part, that's what people would do, is like manipulate the algorithm in order to rank better. And when I was starting out in my career, a lot of people were like, SEO is like, it's too complicated. And they'd throw their hands up and like just give up. And it dawned on me in that moment, I'm like, it's just writing content. It is, making information accessible for your audience while also making it accessible for the search engines. And then, to your point, it was also like breaking down the barriers that people had about what they thought SEO was and what people think SEO is today, because it's not overly complex. There is a lot of technical terminology in there, but at the end of the day, it's really just about creating content on your site, making your website as accessible for your audience as possible, while simultaneously communicating what it is that you do in a way that attracts people. And so making SEO more human has always been at the core of the work that we do, because at the end of the day, people want to do business with people that they know and trust. And so that's kind of been our philosophy.
Yeah. People want to do business with humans.
Yeah. Right? Like, yes, the search engines help connect there, but once they get to your website and they're reading content that clearly wasn't written by a human, they're not going to really want to engage with you.
How do you think that SEO has changed now that AI is in the picture?
Yeah. In some ways, there haven't been any changes, but in a lot of ways, what has changed is that the proliferation of content, the ease in which people can create hundreds or thousands of blog posts, that's really diminished the ability for us to kind of stand out organically in the search results. But it's also created a tremendous opportunity for people who are really writing their own content, sharing their stories and sharing their experiences, to have an opportunity to really connect with their audiences. Yes, ranking is going to be a lot harder because there's a lot of crap in the search results. But at the same time, when people do find you, they're going to be much more impassioned. And I think that that's one thing that AI has kind of revealed to us, is that you don't need a computer to write your content. You write it from a human perspective, and people are starting to gravitate towards that. As people, as consumers, as clients, as customers, we're looking for that authenticity, and it's a huge opportunity. Because like with AI, all it is the average of the internet. And so if you have AI writing you content for you, sure, it might be factually correct, but it's not going to be compelling, and it's just going to be like everyone else's content out there. So why would you want to have that? Why are you building a business if you're just going to be like everybody else?
Yeah. When it first came out, or when I first started using it, I think it was November of 2022. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I used it to write not hundreds, but I want to say tens, like dozens of blogs. And as other people started to use it, I started noticing patterns and words that, are very, very similar all around. So the other thing is that I'm sure, when you use AI, even if it's factual, even if it sounds good, the other thing is that people can tell now. And that creates mistrust, because it's like, oh, you use ChatGPT, or you, whatever you use.
There's just like a slightly, a different word in a place of like a common word can just be like, set it off. Yeah. It's the same. Like I've used it for emails. I've used it, for frameworks for blog posts and things like that. And even social media content. Because I really don't love writing social media content, but it got to a point I'm like, oh, I sound like every other, thought leader on LinkedIn with my content. And I was like, that isn't me. It's filling a gap in that I can get work done, but it's not me and it's not authentic. And so it just sort of, it does start to repeat. It starts to just like sound a little bit off, a little bit not like you. And that's where I think people will start to realize like, oh, that wasn't written by Jessie, that wasn't written by Crystal. And they'll kind of step away. Maybe not intentionally, but they'll kind of react a little bit differently.
So how do you recommend, as talking about SEO, how do you recommend we use it?
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of, idea generation, a good starting off place. Like it can generate hundreds and thousands of ideas right off the bat for you. It can be a great framework for like how you might want to structure a web page, or you might want to structure your blog post, like those things. Absolutely. But that's kind of where I'd say you need to pause and take a look at like, what is the unique facet of your experience or of your business or your retreat that you can apply to this, and bringing in a more human approach to that content. Like whatever AI is pumping out as a result to your query, your question, it's going to be the average. And so you need to add your own personal touch to it. So I think it works as a great tool for starting off. It can help build a content calendar. It can help build a framework or a brief for your blog content or even your courses or anything like that. But then really you want to take that and put your personal touch on it. And that's how we're using it today.
So it's kind of like, that analogy just like, it was like, thought it was going to be good. It's not good. Anyway, a great place to find ideas, like you said, and then you need to create the meat of what that executed version of it's going to be. And then maybe you can use it to spruce it up a bit once you've done that. But don't use it to create. You are the creator.
You are still the creator. This might be the kind of the tactician or the piece that does the writing and all of that stuff. I've seen it work for great effect for folks where English is not their first language, and they're able to translate or create content in that kind of space that, misses some of the common English issues, but those things, definitely. You are the brains, you are the business, you are what makes people want to work with you and be around you. And by relying purely on AI, you'll just kind of miss that opportunity to connect.
Yeah. I just want to say one more thing about AI before we switch back, but it's not emotional. It's not profound. It's intelligent. It's insightful, but it's not emotional, because I've tried to prompt it to bring out something that's going to make me tear up or make me feel something in my heart. And it never does. It never does. I can't.
That's a great point, right? Like, if you're writing a blog post on like, I don't know, 5 microphones for podcasting, great, do it. But is that the best use of your time? Should your website be about that? Yeah, you're right. There's no emotion in it. It's very factual. It's, a lot of information, but yeah.
So I realized I didn't ask you, what's the simplest way to explain, because I'm assuming everybody knows what SEO is, but there may be some people who don't. So what is SEO?
Yeah. It stands for search engine optimization. And in the most basic form, it is about optimizing your website and the information on your website in order to rank higher in the search engine results. Google is obviously the most popular one, so we'll just reference that as most people just optimize for Google. But really and this is based on Google's algorithm and the evolution of Google as a platform, is ultimately SEO is trying to connect your products, your services, your offerings to the right audience, to your ideal customers. Because search engines, no one's going there if they don't have a purpose. They're looking for information. They are looking for, something to serve the issue that they're facing, whether that's information, whether that's a product, whether that is a business. They're not just going there to browse. And so it's a marketing channel that allows you to connect one-to-one with your ideal customer. So SEO to me is absolutely a marketing channel, but it's really intimate in that if you know your needs and wants of your ideal customer, your content will speak to them when they search for your products and services.
Mm-hmm. And SEO, you mentioned website, but you can also use it for YouTube or Instagram or Facebook.
Totally. Yeah. Algorithm optimization, I think, persists across every platform that we use now. Amazon, YouTube, right? Like YouTube is a huge search engine. If you are in the product space, like all of those things absolutely matter. Same with Instagram, TikTok, even Facebook to some extent. You can optimize for these experiences. But in my mind, when it comes to running a business, you want to get people where you own the space. If you're on LinkedIn or you're on Instagram, yes, you have an audience, you have followers, you have people engaging with your brand, but they could change their algorithm tomorrow and you could lose all of that connection that you had. By getting people to your website, you have an opportunity to connect and meet and communicate with them on a one-to-one basis. You can earn their trust and get their email address and build a relationship that way. There's a much better opportunity. There's fewer distractions when a person visits your website than, say, if they're scrolling through Instagram or looking at a bunch of products on an Amazon page. And so in my mind, getting people to that owned real estate of your website is the best opportunity for you to sell your products and services to your audience.
And that makes having a website really important then.
Yeah, you'll always own that. And, look at TikTok, likely at this recording might be getting banned from the United States, right? You have 1 million followers on TikTok. By the end of January, you won't have any, right? And so where does that audience go? And how much revenue do you have from them after? So if you can get people into your, say, a newsletter or to your website to sign up for your courses or programs, you'll have a much better chance of maintaining that relationship and growing with them and having them grow with you as well.
Okay. I have 3 questions swirling around, so I'm going to just
Let's do it.
Pick one in my head. Okay, so the first one is, I spent a couple of years really diving deep into YouTube and have a couple of channels, or a few channels now, if you include this one. And there was always this, not battle, but I guess struggle between, do you optimize for evergreen and basically what you were saying earlier, people who are ready to buy, they're looking for a solution to their problem. So they're already in the door. They don't need convincing that they need it. They're just trying to find the right one that fits what they're looking for. Versus trying to create something and optimize for views or virality or, what's your take on those two?
Yeah, I think you need both, right? The search engine, if someone's ready to buy, you want to make sure you're ranking for those terms. But if they've never heard of you, it's going to be harder for them to be like, oh yeah, this website, that's great, I'm going to go with them. Especially if you're in an e-commerce space where you're up against the Amazons of the world or the Walmarts of the world. People are going to be like, I can trust Walmart. I know the exchange policy, And so I think you do need both sides of it. You need that brand building stuff. You need to demonstrate why your brand exists, what makes your brand great, and everything else that goes into that relationship. Because nowadays, there's so many brands out there. It's hard to know which ones are authentic, which ones are, a conglomerate, which ones are just made for quick sells and are going to screw you over, right? And so I think that although search engines are a huge part of the sales buying process online and the research phase, you still need social media content. You need video content. You need ways to demonstrate that you're an expert in this space, that you know what you're doing, and that gives people an opportunity to be like, is this the type of brand or person that I want to align myself with? Because if you're just doing SEO, it's not going to be enough. You need all these other things for people to get to know you and trust you, because there's a lot of crap out there on the internet.
Yeah. And a lot of it, you can't even tell if it's human anymore. Sometimes my husband and I are like, is this real or is this AI? What do you think?
Yeah. Like a good example of that was like, my partner bought a pair of shoes off of Instagram, and he spent about $50 on the shoes. They're great shoes, super comfortable. We happened to meet someone while we were traveling at a bar, and we're like, man, great shoes. My partner has these. And the guy's like, oh yeah, I got them for $10 off of Temu. And our faces just kind of sank. We're like, we thought we were buying into a real brand here. And really, we just paid extra to go through Instagram to get shoes from Temu. And so that, like, this is common now. Like, and there's all kinds of ways in which people are creating artificial brands to sell products in like a quick and dirty kind of way. And so I think for the people that want to build a brand and a business that they're proud of and that will serve their audience in a way that's authentic to them, you need all these other touch points.
Yeah. I mean, especially for a retreat, because you're looking to go and spend money to be with this person for a certain amount of days, and you want to make sure that you resonate with them.
Could you imagine committing like a few $1,000s, a few $100s to a retreat, and then realizing the person leading the retreat is not the type of person you want to be around? Like,
that happens.
Yeah, I bet.
It's happened.
I'd be like so dead. I'd be like, oh, you're awful. This is not what I want. You know, like that, you know, those are legit, right? You definitely want to be able to give people the opportunity to know who you are, because that's going to be a big part of the success of your business, your retreat, and everything.
Yeah. I was listening to one of Neil Patel's either videos or clips or somewhere, wherever I was listening to him, and he was saying that sometimes it takes 6 months or a year or however long for people to actually buy after they've been following you. And that was so validating to hear, because a lot of times we put so much work into it and get nothing in return, but that doesn't mean that nothing's happening. People are watching, and that's really difficult to continue. So what do you recommend in that situation? Because obviously you need to do something that you can sustain. Can't keep pushing yourself if you hate it, but what would you do?
Yeah, great question. You know, I have had many of those experiences. In fact, we got a pretty great client this year from a person that took a workshop of mine back in 2018. That was nearly 5 years from the point of we met to the point that she needed our services, and now we work together. You can't put that into a marketing strategy. You can't put that into a sales strategy. And, you know, it certainly is hard to believe that the work you're doing now, if you don't get any sales, it's hard to think that it's good. And it's easy to doubt yourself. Because I know I do it all the time. And so it's certainly you kind of have to find the touch points within yourself and within the work that you're doing that kind of remind you that you're on the right, like SEO, it takes time. It'll take you 3 to 6 months to really see the full impact of the work you're doing. And so you kind of have to find the little nuggets to show you that it's working. Even if you're not generating more sales or you're not getting more people signing up for your retreat, you kind of have to look for the positive signs to be like, oh, this is working. You know, this is likely to turn into something. And it's all about that incremental growth, that just one little step at a time, 1% better, you know, refining each process a little bit more each time. And like you said, you should be enjoying it. Like, this is work. Like, you're not going to be an overnight success. Like, no one is an overnight success. And so you kind of have to remind yourself that, you know, every blog post isn't going to bring in 10 new clients, but it'll connect with more people. You know, if you don't reach 50 new followers by the end of the week, like, it doesn't mean you're not good at this. It just means that you have to keep refining and iterating. And so you should hopefully be enjoying the process through this, because, you know, we get lots of leads that don't turn into anything for 6 months, a year. You know, We think we get fired because we haven't done a good job, and then they come back 2-3 years later with a different project and want to work with us again. And you don't know, and it's really hard. And so you kind of have to just have faith in yourself, have faith that the thing that you're building is worthwhile, and keep kind of carving out your ideal customer, your ideal audience, and then that stuff starts to come into play. And then you'll one day be like, oh, I'm kind of good at this. I'm very successful. I'm very happy.
Yeah. I love that you said you have to have faith, because especially in this realm of like very technical stuff, there's really not much room for faith. It just is what it is, and it's black and white. And yesterday I was speaking to 𝗕𝗨𝗬𝗧𝗛, who has a venue, a retreat center in Costa Rica.
Amazing.
And I was, that
sounds
amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can we do our podcast there next time?
Well, yeah, why not? I'll see. We have to see what the future looks like, but I would love to do that. But I was asking her basically for a formula of, do you need to make sure that your brand is big and ready before you buy a retreat space or before you own one, so that, you have the community to bring people over? And she did not give me the answer I was, the logical side of my brain was looking for. She's like, you just have to let go and follow your heart. And I was like, I don't know how to make that tangible. But yes, there's so much about life, even the very technical stuff, that is out of our control and requires us to just have a little faith and continue showing up. And like you said, 1% better each time. And that's really all you can do. And then you just have to trust that the rest follows.
Yeah. Right. Like even in a somewhat controlled space, like technology marketing that I'm in, like you don't know how it's going to work once you put it out into the world. Like you can build the most perfect strategy and have everything aligned perfectly, and it still won't go as you expect. We tell our clients whenever we prepare a proposal, like, here's our timeline. This is just existing in a silo. 6 months is a long time. A lot of things could change between now and then. So this is what it would look like in an ideal state, where nothing else happens, where your competitors don't do anything. Google doesn't change their algorithm, and the world stays the same. And even then, like, yeah, it might work. It might work. There's still like the chance that, there's that, I think it was Mike Tyson that said it, but like everyone has a game plan when they get into the ring until they get hit in the face. And the only way you're going to know if your game plan is going to work is you kind of have to get hit in the face, and then you adapt and you go with it. I think if you're building a business, or building a retreat, building whatever it is that you're doing, like you have resiliency already. Like you have a drive and you have a stubbornness that will show you how to get through this. Whatever it is that you think is not working, scrap it, like get it out of the way and move forward. And even when, we're emotionally invested in a lot of the work that we do, myself included, like it can be hard to be like, oh, I need to cut this loose. I need to let it go and just get that out. But if you can remove the pieces that are stressing you out and maybe, have a bit of clarity around what is truly working for you and not working, go towards the things that work. Even if it doesn't feel like it's the right place to go, if it's working, it will become the right place to go.
Yeah. And I've heard from so many creators, when something does explode or convert or whatever it is, it becomes successful. They're like, I don't know how it happened. Or you spend so much time on this one piece of content and you're like, this is my masterpiece. I'm going to put this out into the world and everybody's going to love it and it's going to be amazing. And then you put it out and it's crickets. And then this one thing that you were just like, whatever, I'm just going to post this stupid little thing for myself. And then that one goes crazy and you're just like, I don't understand. What is happening?
Yeah, that's business. I'm pretty sure that's like the core piece of business. The thing that you spend the most time fussing about and worrying about, it's not going to resonate as much. And then something that you just like put out there like on a whim hits the right vibration, and then people are like, this is the best thing you've ever done. This is the best thing I've ever seen. Here's my money. Like, let's go. And the same for us. Like, we'll land meetings with like some, I don't know, reasonably cool companies, like great stuff going on. Never get an answer back about the proposal. And then other ones, I'm like, whatever. Like, this is a long shot. I don't think we're ever going to get this company. Just put it out there. And they're like, yeah, well, we'll sign you for 2 years. Like, let's do it. Like, let's go for it. And you're like, I don't know what the difference is. I think I put the same work into every proposal and every client, pitch that we do, and it just doesn't land the same way. And so I used to get really upset about it. I used to get really like bummed out. And they like it. It was everything they said they wanted and put all that effort into it. Like, it touches the budget. It got the numbers. Like, and then, they don't answer. And then other people will be like, this is the best proposal I've ever seen. Like, we want to work with you. Like, we'll name our children after you. Like, it's so great to work with. Like, not that much, but yeah, it's like all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, there's no right way. You just kind of got to keep picking up the little nuggets of like, oh, that worked, or that felt good. Someone paid me a compliment on this thing. I'll just keep chipping away at that and grow it from there. But yeah, like our proposal, like, to come back to it for a quick sec, was like, I've never gotten more compliments about our work than I have on my proposals. But then I send a proposal out to one guy and he's like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like, it's impersonal and has no data and it and like, I don't think you know my business at all. And then just never replied again. And I was like, if that had been my first conversation about this stuff, I probably would have been pretty shaken up about it. But because it hadn't been, and I'd received such positive feedback on it in the past, I was like, all right, that's a him problem, not a me problem. And in the moment, it's not always easy to differentiate, but it does help as a business owner to be able to go, that's a them problem.
And sometimes you can tell, people who are just complaining and taking their day out on you versus people who are coming back in a kind way and saying, like, giving you feedback,
Totally, right? Like, giving real feedback and not just being like, your work sucks, we're out. Like, being like, hey, I don't feel comfortable. Like, we have a client, he's been with us for, almost 10 years at this point. And he's taken me aside and been like, hey, we need a bit more clarity on this piece of work, or who is managing this side of it. How do we know that the work that you're doing is getting implemented and doing this? And he's given us opportunities to demonstrate that and improve our processes, which has made us a better company. And for that, I've always been super grateful for him. But there's others where like, our results are down 2 months in a row, you're out. We're firing you. We don't think you're good. We think you're lying to us. Like, it's, yeah.
And I mean, to that, because I think it's very, this is important too for everyone to know, because you can be an expert at your craft, and that doesn't mean that you have a magic fairy wand. Because I know, as someone who has also worked in marketing, a lot of people have even called me the fairy, and you're just going to wave your magic wand. And it's funny and we laugh, but when you're working with somebody, you can only do so much. That other person needs to show up and give you what you need in order to highlight them. In order to highlight them and promote them, you need them to show up. So I just want to say that, because
no, you're right.
I know a lot of times, people say, they want to complain about you, but then they're not seeing how they didn't show up.
Yeah. And I think that truth resonates in terms of like your audience. They're building retreats. Like, people will come to these retreats thinking that you are going to fix them and you're going to make them the person that they believe themselves to be, but they don't want to do the work to contribute to that. And the same goes with marketing. The same goes with other like consulting businesses. Like, people will come to you thinking that you're going to be their silver bullet, you're their knight in shining armor that's going to change their business fortunes around. And if they're not going to do the work, it's really hard for a person to come in and just fix it. There's no magic wand, right? Like, there's no secret to ranking #1 in Google. It's hard work and it's persistence and all those other things. And if they're not willing to put in that work to help do it together, it's not going to be a success. And I imagine that's the same for a lot of people running your retreats. Like, people that get the most out of it are the ones that are like putting in the work and doing the time and being fully present.
100%. So I want to ask, okay, I said we weren't going to talk about AI anymore, but it's hard because the world is AI these days. So when it comes to keywords and tags and things like that, do you trust AI to give you a list of those that actually work?
Yes and no. Yes, in that they will be, again, a good jumping off point and will like have a good baseline. And I'd say that like from a keyword list perspective, they will get a lot right. They can give you a lot of data and will be good. But at the same time, I'll speak with the keyword research specifically, like you still need to go and do the search yourself and see what is actually showing up in those search results. And you will know better if your website actually has an opportunity to rank there. It's like if you're competing against the Amazons and the Walmarts and the Wikipedias of the world for a certain keyword, I would really doubt your ability to outrank any of those websites. But if you see a lot of other brands that look like yours, feel like yours, websites that are doing some similar work, those ones you'll have an opportunity to outperform. And so that's where you have to go in and see, like, yes, the AI can give you a great list, but they won't be able to tell you if your website actually has a legitimate chance of ranking on the first page or even in the top 3 for these types of terms. And so they'll build you a list. Excellent. That's super helpful. But then you need to go and do the digging, investigate yourself, be honest about how likely it is that your website will show up in those results, because it's going to be hard. And 2, although AI is pretty good at understanding search intent and the true meaning of a term, you still need to go in and make sure that it's correct. Like the term retreat, if I was a war buff, could mean a very different intention. I could be looking for famous armies that have retreated, right? Versus going on a retreat. And so, and there's different kinds of retreats too. And so just that word could have different connotations based on the searcher. So knowing that nuance really plays a part in the selection of keywords that, at least for me, I haven't seen AIs or any other tools do that well enough for the specific brands that we work with.
Okay. And what do you use? What do you find is the most user-friendly way to search what are the right keywords for me?
Yeah. So the low cost, the easiest way to like get started in this is to go and do searches yourself. Google has like predictive results. Google has people also asked and people also searched for. And you can start to build a list from there. Google Trends is free as well. You can see like the trending history of keywords and topics that are really helpful in that space. And if you have a bit of budget to put on these tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs, Moz, they have some great tools that'll give you some like search volume and competitiveness data, answer the public. There's lots of tools like that. But really, like, for the most part, you want to be able to go in, find the keywords and build this list and look at the results yourself and see what's available and see what is realistic for your brand. You know, if you were to search the term Apple, like, are we talking about the fruit or are we talking about computers? And so that can be very different, you know? And so when you're in there, like doing a search and like building out a list, you want to look at those results and see what other words your competitors are using. There are lots of ways you could put AI and like ask them to grab a keyword list for a website like yours or for a business like yours. What keywords should it target? And then you could start to do the manual work yourself of looking through that list and seeing which ones are actually relevant to your business specifically.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, those
and
ones
what
are.
about when you have your keywords or your phrases, do you recommend putting those in your titles and headlines and sprinkling them in the body and stuff?
Great question. So The step after having your keyword list is to map out which keywords you want to rank for on which pages of your website. You want to avoid having the same keyword on multiple pages because they'll end up cannibalizing each other. So you want to dedicate one page to one topic or a keyword cluster and have that be the main message. And in that case, then you can use your primary and secondary keywords for that page, like in the titles and in the headers, and then you write organically and naturally with those keywords. Like Google doesn't look for, best retreat in Costa Rica as one phrase. They're looking at a page that talks about the best retreats in Costa Rica. So if you're talking about the regions of Costa Rica, like Tamarindo or Malpais and things like that, you can include that natural language and speak more authentically about the experience rather than just going, best retreats, Costa Rica. These retreats in Costa Rica are the best. Like doing that over and over isn't going to get you anywhere with the search results. And so writing naturally with those keywords in mind will be a much more successful practice for you than if you were to do it just kind of like stuffing the keywords into your content.
Okay. I really like that idea of each page having its own focus so that they don't cannibalize each other.
Exactly, because
That's good.
Google wants to show the best possible results to their searchers. Like that's how Google makes their money, is that people trust the search results. And if Google, like, it's not like it's thinking, but if the algorithm can't determine which page is the best version of your content for this topic, it's not going to show either of them. There's a greater chance that it'll show 0 of your pages than it'll show both or 3 or 4. So, yeah. Especially if you're a smaller website, and like smaller websites being like less than 5,000 URLs, Google is not going to give you a lot of credibility. So you have to be really diligent about the organization of your content.
Okay. That's really good to know. I'm thinking of websites that are really small, websites that maybe they have, the main page about services or events. Maybe they have like 4 or 5 pages. Okay, so little side note. Is it still true that the more pages you have, the better? And do you recommend focusing on building more pages, or are there different ways you can go about it?
Google does, as a general rule of thumb, prioritize larger websites. And that is websites with lots of URLs, with lots of unique content. There's a reason why Wikipedia ranks really well. There's a reason why you see, CNN and Fox News and The Guardian and all kinds of like news publications at the top of a lot of search results as well. These bigger websites have an inherent authority that Google values. Also, brand reputation plays a part in that. That being said, if you have a smaller website, and let's say you have like maybe 3 or 4 services, an about page, a contact page, you should try to have a blog, because the content that your blog will target and feature will support all the other services that you offer, the retreats that you offer, and what that experience is about. So like for us, we do SEO, we do analytics. We'll write about, how to optimize your Google Analytics profile or how to rank better on Bing. And we'll create content around the topics that we are known for and what we do and what we're really good at, and use the blog to kind of support that. And that creates additional opportunities for people to find us that may not realize that they need SEO or may not need an agency. Like somebody who is perhaps, dealing with a mental health issue, depression, anxiety, they might search for, how to calm myself from a panic attack, or how do I know if I have anxiety? And a therapist website could have breathing exercises, ways to identify when you're in an anxious environment, or ways to know that you are becoming anxious before it actually gets to be too much. And in that instant, people can see like, this person understands my needs and my concerns and my issues. Maybe I want to talk to them. Or maybe I'm not ready yet, but I have this information. I have these tools from a person that seems to know what they're doing and is pretty reputable. When I am ready, or if I meet someone that might need their help, they're more likely to go to them. And so the blog serves as an opportunity to kind of build that relationship. We talked about it earlier about like, having social media content and building that connection with your audience. The blog serves that. And you'll have that content for your newsletters and your social media and everything else that you're doing. And it also helps you rank better. It shows that to Google that you are an expert in this area, whatever it is that your business is in. And it gives Google that trust to show your website more often for those more competitive terms that your services are targeting. That was a bit of a long answer, but that's kind of how it works. You got to like build up the big wheel and the momentum for Google to trust you by having more content about the space that you're operating in.
That was one of the best answers of why do you need a blog? Why do you need a blog? Yeah.
Thank you. It
was great.
Super kind. Cool.
So, okay, we talked about having bigger websites rank higher, making sure that you're looking into keywords so you can actually rank and not compete against, people that are just, they're a super saturated, let's say, keyword. But what about how do you rank? This is a half-baked question. I feel like I'm just...
Like, you want to talk
Is there anything else that we need to... What was that?
I don't think we want to talk about the algorithm.
Do we need
to help rank?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was where I was going. But is there anything else that we haven't discussed?
Yeah, content is a big part of it. Content is a driving force for like how we connect as humans to other humans. But in order for your content to do well in the search results, you do need to consider how you organize the information on your website. So ensuring that all of your services are in the navigation under, one section. So it'd be like service / self-help, service /2, service /3. And if you have retreats, you want those to all be in another column and be like retreat / Costa Rica, retreat / Mexico, and go through that. This helps with the categorization of your pages, and it helps Google understand what information is where and things like that. The same goes with your blog. Like you would like to ideally have all of your blog posts be like your domain name / blog / article, blog / article 2, and so forth. This way, Google knows that all of these blog articles are like interconnected and related, and it helps them, the crawlers, access the information and crawl the website. That's a big part of this thing too. The other piece is, and this falls into one of those things that sounds technical, but it really isn't, is Google Search Console. And it allows you, the webmaster, the person that owns the website, to establish a one-to-one connection with Google so that it knows what content you have on your website, how often you're publishing content, and when it should crawl your website over and over. The other piece to that too is that when you publish a new page, whether that is a blog post or a retreat or a new service, you can submit it through Google Search Console to accelerate the process of Google putting it into its results. And so that's the piece I think that a lot of business owners, website managers, and content creators often overlook, is that second step of, yes, you publish the content, great. Now you need to tell Google that it exists so that they will crawl the website and index it and present it in the search results.
Okay. I fumbled through the question, but I'm glad that we got somewhere because that was really insightful.
It's a big piece that people often overlook.
Yeah. And just, speaking Google's language, cleaning it up for them so they understand what am I looking at, so I can help you. Help me help you.
Exactly. Like, think of the vastness of the internet. Google is trying to crawl and categorize every single web page on the internet. Like that is their goal. And the easier we, business owners, webmasters, make it for Google to access our information, they will reward us. And by reward us, I mean give us better rankings, send us traffic, hopefully help us generate more revenue. And so we have to make it easier for them, because they're not going to spend time being like, what does this mean? What does that look like? Should I go left? Should I go right? I don't know. I'm just going to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so they'll follow the path of least resistance.
This makes me think about when I'm immediately looking at WordPress because that's what popped into my head. But I'm sure on many different page editors, you have like the alt image text and the metadata, the SEO. How important is it to fill out that stuff?
Very, very. It's not going to kill your opportunities, but alt text describing the images. If you have readers that are visually impaired, alt text makes it so that you can describe the image to those people. If you have content in that image that is very helpful to someone who is able to see, all the people that are visually impaired are not going to be able to access that information. So alt text definitely reduces the barrier. It's a good thing for humanizing your website and making it more accessible, but Google also uses that information to determine the context and the topic of your page and helps you rank. It helps your images rank. You know, if someone is Googling images for retreats in Costa Rica and you have a lot of beautiful images describing that, then you'll have a chance to rank in those results. North Face shared a strategy a couple of years ago where North Face, the SEO company for them went in and switched out all the photos on like some of the world's biggest mountains and hikes and climbing to have athletes wearing North Face jackets. And so when people search for how to climb Mount Everest or climbers climbing Mount Everest, these photos on Wikipedia showed a person wearing a North Face jacket. Now they did a case study and were bragging about this strategy because it really worked. It was super effective. But then Google was like, well, screw you, and just knocked down North Face's website for a bit.
Oh.
But to the point of like the effectiveness of describing your images with alt text, it's very important. This is really helpful. It feels like unnecessary work, but it has a huge lift on your SEO traffic and makes your website a lot more accessible.
And I think it's something that it's not too technical. It's just like a laziness factor, like, oh, we don't really need that.
Yeah. Like writing an extra sentence when you're adding in a new photo, it sucks. I hate doing it. It bums me out. It's like, but it does make it easier. It does make it easier for search engines. It makes it easier for people. Like if that photo doesn't load, they'll at least see the description of the image. They'll know what was there, hypothetically.
And I didn't even think about the image search page, because usually when I think of ranking, I'm thinking about the articles, the text. But if you maybe you don't rank for the text, but you could rank higher in the images if you fill out your alt text, right?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Like if you're thinking about your own experiences of like travel and doing retreats, like you kind of want to know what the space is going to look like, You want to know if perhaps they are right beside the ocean or if they're deep in the jungle or, that kind of stuff. And those image searches are very, very powerful and very underutilized.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your secrets.
My pleasure. It's all about the fact is people listening, they got to go and do the work themselves as well. Like I can share all this stuff. I'm like, if you don't do the work, it won't change anything. So by all means, do it. Like make the internet better with your content. Like who wouldn't love that?
But you work with people too. So if they need some help, you could help them
totally.
out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll get other people to write your alt text. I won't do it personally, but we'll get people to help do that for you.
That would be awesome.
You could theoretically get AI to describe those alt texts for you. Be like, please describe all of these images in detail. That would be a good use of AI.
Okay. Yeah, and AI is optimizing for itself, really, like tech for tech. So the tech knows what the tech is looking for. I like
Totally.
that.
Right?
All right. Well, wow. I just got inspired with everything we were saying. I'm like skimming through the questions, all the questions I didn't ask. But just one more. If there was one thing you wish more people knew about SEO, what would it be?
That it doesn't happen in a silo, that it helps to feed and inform all of your other marketing and sales and business building initiatives. It makes your connection to your audience and your prospective clients just a little bit better. If you make it really easy for people to find you, it'll make it a lot easier for them to want to do business with you. And I think that that's one piece of SEO that people don't really think about, is that if you're writing great content and you're making pages that are really helpful and useful to your audience, they'll want to do business with you. You'll have content to share on your social media. You'll have content to put into your newsletter. Other websites will want to share or link to your all of those things. And really at the core of what SEO is like being a good, honest, open steward of the internet to kind of create trust for everybody.
That was love. Well, thank you, Jesse, for
Pleasure.
being
Thank
here.
you. It was great to be here, Crystal. Thank you.
Yes.